Okay, so today we're going to talk about the difference between a mini split system with heat and a standard HVAC system, which is heating and air conditioning all in one. This is a furnace with a coil on top. The furnace produces the heat in the wintertime, which blows through the coil and in through the ductwork. In the summertime, the heat shuts off. The blower from the furnace blows the air through the coil, which is cooled by the condenser outside, and that cool air is then circulated throughout the house via the ductwork, which is, as you can see, runs the entire length of the basement and then across to the other side to each individual run. It's a more evenly dispersed way of cooling and heating a house. It's a little cheaper than a mini split if you're going to do an entire house, but it's not quite as efficient and it's not as comfortable because you don't have the individual zones to, fit each person's needs in the house. So we're going to walk over to the next room. I'm going to show you a little bit more of the ductwork so you can get an idea of the magnitude of how much space it takes up. So you have a continuation of the duct over here, as well as on this side. So most houses are between 8 and 9 runs, so you're taking out a lot of sheetrock to get it in. This is in a basement. Some are in the attic. It just depends on the house and the layout, what makes the most sense for your particular house. This is the return. It's not quite finished yet, but this is going to stretch over here and then end up tapping into here, which is where it pulls in the air. So as you can see, there's almost a whole room lost in space with the central unit. Now over here, we're going to take a look at a mini split. We're also putting it in the same house. This is an 18,000 BTU Daikin. It's relatively standard size. So just to give you an idea what it looks like once it's up, it pretty much sits like this on the wall. Obviously the sheetrock would be closed, so this is really the only thing you would see. Some people consider it an eyesore. It's really a personal preference kind of thing. These run much more efficient than central units, energy-wise, but they are more cost-effective, and it is invasive because in order to get the line sets behind the wall, we would need to cut into the wall and run. I don't know if you can see these copper lines. So when I refer to line sets, I mean the copper lines that connect the inside unit to the outside unit. We have to run them in the wall along with some wire and also an individual drain line. Now the drain is central on those units, so it's a lot easier to manage on a central unit. With a mini split, each head needs a drain. So sometimes it's difficult to figure out where to put the drain and where it's gonna drain best without freezing in the winter time. So that's also something to consider about when you're thinking about the location of it and the practicality. You can do up to 5 of these heads on one condenser, and you could do multiple condensers, but again, it's a little more costly. I want to show you guys outside what the condensers look like. It's pretty much the same kind of look for both, just a little different shape. So this is the Daikin condenser that there's going to be 2 heads connected to this. Like I said, you can have as many as 5 separate zones and heads on one of these. The bigger ones with more heads get a little bit bigger, but they're generally, this is a good size comparison. So all the line sets would go through the wall and then hook up to here. Now sometimes, in some cases with mini splits, if you don't want to rip apart walls and you want to do it after construction, it can be done, but it's going to have to run on the outside of the house, which means best case scenario, the best way to hide it is to hide it in what's called line hide, which looks very similar to like a leader pipe for a gutter. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is an example of a gutter pipe. This is what you would put the line sets inside of, but if you were to have 5 zones, for example, you'd have 5 of these on the outside of your house, so it might look a little funny. I would consider it an eyesore. So it is invasive, but it's not as bad as running ductwork. Now if we walk over here, this is the other half to the central unit. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger. There's only one set of line sets, which is only 2 copper pipes going to this one. and it's all hidden back here and goes straight into the basement and pumps back. These are a little cleaner looking on the outside because you only really have to run one line set versus running up to 5 or more depending on how many condensers. But that's pretty much it. It's really just a comparison of what you want to look at and how many zones you need. I would say if you were to do an entire house and you wanted to do 5 rooms, most people have a 3-bedroom, so you would have your living room, your kitchen, and 3 bedrooms. If you were to do that with a mini split, you would probably be looking at the $15,000 range roughly installed, depending on the length of the lines and where the drains have to be run. It varies quite a bit. If you were to do that with central, you'd probably be closer to the $10,000 mark. So there is quite a difference in price, but with the central system, you don't have the ability to choose which temperature for each room. With mini splits, each person could have their bedroom, the temperature they like, and they can set their own schedule up. So it is a little more versatile and a little more efficient, but it does cost more. And that's pretty much the main differences.